So can Scotland topple Ireland this Saturday in the clash in Pool B that's going to determine the outcome of that group in this year's Rugby World Cup? Well, in this video I'm going to take a look at what I think's going to happen and share it with you all. Hello and welcome to Inside Rugby. My name is Mark. If you haven't been here before, I'm a Kiwi rugby fan living in beautiful Cancun in Mexico. And in this video I'm going to be talking about that Pool B clash that's taking place on Saturday night between Scotland and Ireland. And can Ireland do the job on Scotland, or is there going to be what some people would think a bit of an upset and Scotland get home over the top of Ireland? Now, before I get into the teams, I just want to talk about the path of getting to this stage of the Rugby World Cup for both teams, because it's been fairly interesting. Of course, both teams have played South Africa. Ireland beat South Africa, Scotland lost to South Africa, and they also had those relatively easy games which both teams performed pretty well at. So coming into this game, I think it's going to be a case of both teams have had that tough game against South Africa, but this is a different matchup, isn't it, between Ireland and Scotland. As a Kiwi looking on as a neutral in this game, I'm liking the look of this game from a number of different reasons. And first of all, Ireland and Andy Farrell have gone in with what I consider to be their best team, and he's throwing everything at this one against Scotland. And why not Scotland? Why not? Because this is a game to get into the quarterfinals of the Rugby World Cup, and you don't want to be left behind. So I think everything needs to be put on the table. And if we look at the Scotland selection, there's a couple of question marks there for me that maybe some of my Scottish viewers can send in their comments on, because I'm a little bit befuddled by some of the selections that Scotland have gone with. So let's get into the two teams, and I'll tell you what I think and also ask a couple of questions as well. So if we look at Scotland to start off with, and in the front row of the forwards they got Schumann, Turner and Fagerson. And yeah, really good front row here. I think Schumann's been playing well in the open play throughout this tournament, and so has Turner. So I think this is a good Scottish front row. I think Ireland are going to be able to take it to them though. Looking at the locks for Scotland, we've got Gray and Gilchrist. Again, two really good selections, and probably the two informed locks as far as Scotland are concerned. Then let's have a look at the back three for Scotland, and we've got Ritchie, Darge and Dempsey. And of course Ritchie had that head knock in the last game for Scotland, and he's coming back into this team this weekend. So a really good back three, but these guys are going to have to really be on their mettle to take it to the Irish back three. And I think this is probably one of the areas where Scotland is going to struggle just a little bit in this particular game. So a really good forward pack there for Scotland, and they've done some interesting things in the reserves as well for this game. So let's have a look at the Scottish forward bench that's going to come on for Scotland in this game. And an interesting thing here that Gregor Townsend's done, he's got a 6-2 split with 6 forwards coming on and 2 backs in the reserves for Scotland in this game. So having a look at the bench and the forwards, we've got Ashman, Sutherland, Neil, Cummings, Fagerson and Crosby. And one of the big surprises for me is there's no Hamish Watson in this 23 for Scotland, and I think he had an awesome game against Romania. If you'd watched that video, I gave Watson a huge amount of praise for that game he played against Romania. I know that it's Romania, but he seems to be really in form, and I can't see why he's been left out of this 23 and not even getting a start on the bench. So that's probably one of the surprise picks for me in the Scottish team to play Ireland on Saturday night. Let me know what you think. Do you think Watson should have got into this team? He did have a very, very good game against Romania. Okay, moving on to the Scottish backline now. We'll start off at halfback, and it's Ali Price coming in for White, and that's also a little bit of a surprise for me. Townsend deciding to go with Price, and it may be because he will give another dimension in terms of running for the Scottish. So Ali Price in there at halfback, and then in number 10 we've got Finn Russell, of course, and he's going to be the maestro for Scotland. If they're going to have any chance in this game, he's got to make sure that he keeps the scoreboard ticking over, but he's also going to have to make sure that he gets the Scottish backs away and gives them good running angle and good ball to run onto. So expect Finn Russell to be a major player for Scotland in this game, as he is in most games. And let's see what Ireland do to try and shut Finn Russell down. And then on the inside centres, we've got Topple, of course, and then we've got Hugh Jones in outside centre. So the regular Scottish pairing in the centres for this game. And both of these guys are very, very good. But again, they're going to be up against it against their Irish counterparts. And then on the wings, we've got Duhan van der Merwe and Darcy Graham. And good to see Darcy Graham getting in there after his 4-try romping against Romania in the last game. I think he deserves a run. While it's great to see Darcy Graham in there, I think he's going to bring a lot of excitement to this particular game if he gets some ball opportunity. And I think a lot of people will be saying that Kyle Steyn is a little bit unlucky not to be at least on the bench in this game for Scotland. So that's another call that Gregor Townsend's made, to put Darcy Graham in there. And I think with him and van der Merwe, they've got the two in-form wingers who can really do some damage if they get the opportunity, particularly from broken play against this Irish team. And then at fullback, we've got Blair Kinghorn, of course. And I've said in recent videos, I like Kinghorn. He's a big, dangerous, lanking sort of a player. He's got a lot of deceptive speed. And again, if he does get the opportunity in broken play and set piece play, he could do some damage against this Irish defence. Now in the reserves for Scotland, they've just put Horn and Ollie Smith on the reserves. So just 2 reserve backs, and that's going to be interesting to see how this plays out, because Townsend is obviously putting his muscle into rejuvenating the power and the strength and the momentum that the Scottish forwards can have throughout the 80 minutes of this game. So an interesting selection, a couple of ones there. I think Ali Price is an interesting one, and the omission of Hamish Watson are probably 2 that I'd throw out there as a neutral spectator to this game. But I'd be really interested to hear from anybody in the Scottish group who would like to talk about those 2 particular selections, and anybody else that might have missed out on getting into the starting 23 for the Scottish team this weekend. So they're going to be up against it, and as I said, Andy Farrell's thrown in the very, very strong team for Ireland. And if we have a look at their front row to start off with, we'll see that they've got Furlong, Sheehan and Porter. And what a great front row this is, and I think they're really, really going to take it to Scotland. And I was impressed with the way that Ireland forwards dealt with the Springboks and gave them a good run for their money. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do to Scotland. And then looking at the locks for Ireland, we've got Ty Byrne and then Henderson, and 2 great locks here. These guys are going to be massive. Expect them to do very well in the lineouts, and I think they're going to target the Scottish lineout. So watch out for Ireland trying to poach some Scottish ball in the lineouts from both Byrne and from Henderson. And then we move on to the Irish part of the team that I think is going to make a huge difference in this game, and that's their back 3 in the forwards. It's of course O'Mahony, Van der Fleer and also Kanan Doris. And I just really, really like these guys. I rate them all. They're fantastic players, and I think they're going to cause Scotland a lot of problems in the breakdown in this game. And I think this is an area where Ireland are going to take it to Scotland and come out on top. So expect to see O'Mahony, Van der Fleer and Doris doing some really, really big things in the breakdowns against Scotland. So unlike Gregor Townsend, Andy Farrell's gone with a 5-3 split in his bench, and the 5 forward reserves Kelleher, Kilcoyne, Beelum, Ryan and Conan. So a great bench there for Ireland to bring on, and I expect them to lose nothing when they bring this bench on and are able to take it to Scotland. So we'll see how that extra forward plays out for Scotland in this game, but I think Ireland are going to have too much in the forwards for the Scottish team. And yeah, a really, really good forward pack, lots of speed, mobility, and I think they're going to beat Scotland around the park over the 80 minutes, and that's going to be a big key factor, I think, in this game on Saturday. Now looking at the Irish backline, no surprises here. We've got halfback Gibson Park, Johnny Sexton at number 10, and as Gregor Townsend will do for Scotland, Sexton will be the key playmaker for Ireland in this backline, as we've seen it since he's been playing in this year's Rugby World Cup. He really sets this Irish backline away, and he's playing very, very well for a 38-year-old, and expect him to do the same in this game. And then outside him, we've got one of the players of the tournament as far as I'm concerned, and Bundy Aki, and boy has he been big and instrumental in this Irish backline in this year's Rugby World Cup. Absolutely fantastic. But don't take anything away from Gary Ringrose outside of Bundy Arke, and I think these two make a magical pairing in the centres, both in attack and defence. And expect Ringrose to get through plenty of work in defence if Scotland get some ball moving forward, but also expect him to link up with Arke in the backline to cause the Scottish backs some problems on attack. And then the back three for Ireland, those predictable back three, I guess nowadays: James Lowe, Mac Hansen and Hugo Keenan. And what a back three this is. These guys are fantastic. I've mentioned it before in my other videos about Ireland, that James Lowe with that left foot kicking option gives them that great ability to be able to clear out from their line and not put so much pressure on just Sexton. So I think that's a great play that Ireland has in their back line. And Mac Hansen, of course, has been scoring some fabulous tries in this tournament, and there's no doubt that Hugo Keenan can break open any backline in World Rugby today. And what I really like about Keenan also is that when he does get some in-play kicks sent down his way, he returns those kicks with interest and can almost always beat the first line of defence. So look for Keenan to bring back those kicks that Finn Russell and co try to give to him during open play, and I'm sure Keenan's going to be able to bring those back and really set up some good passages of play for Ireland. So a fantastic backline there for Ireland in this game. Okay, looking at the Irish back reserves, we've got Conor Murray with Crowley, and we've got McCloskey coming in for his first game in this year's Rugby World Cup. So that's an interesting selection for Ireland and for Andy Farrell to make that one. But obviously he's been doing well at training, and he's going to get his first opportunity in this year's Rugby World Cup to come on. So a fantastic Irish team. I think it's pretty close to the best team they can put out on the pitch, so they're giving a lot of respect to the Scottish game, and I think they need to as well, because I think Scotland are going to throw everything at Ireland in this game. Now, of course, the scenario is that Scotland need to beat Ireland by 8 points or more, and that's going to be a tough ask, and I'm going to call it now. I think Ireland are going to be too strong for Scotland in this game, and the reason I think that is because they've got class all across the pitch. And it doesn't matter whether you look at their forwards, but I think in particular that back three for Ireland, O'Mahony, Van der Fleer and Doris, are going to do a number on Scotland, and they're going to set up some fantastic ball. And we're going to see Bundy Arke doing what he's been doing in the last games. He's going to be making some breaks to open up the play and get behind the Scottish defence, and we're going to see him also just taking the ball up and setting up great second, third, fourth phases of play for the rest of the Irish backline. But I think also in the beginning we're going to see Ireland take it up in the forwards and play this game at pace, because I think they can run Scotland off their feet in the first 20 minutes of this game. Now, as I've always said in my videos, discipline's going to play a huge part in this game. Neither team can afford to get down to 14 men, but you know what, I think Ireland could live with 14 men easier than what Scotland could. That's just a gut feel thing that I'm putting out there, but I hope that no one gets sent off and we see all players staying on the field for the duration of the game, no cards and no injuries. That's my hope for this game, that we see another fantastic game of rugby like we did between South Africa and Ireland. So yeah, I'm expecting this to be a really hard-fought battle, but I just think Ireland's got too much, and I'm going to be picking them for going a long way in this year's Rugby World Cup, but they've got to get through this game first. And I think the key thing for Ireland and their future in this year's Rugby World Cup is to make sure they get through this game with the win and without any major injuries. That's going to be a really major thing, because of course if they're going to win this year's Rugby World Cup, they've got to go 4 games on the trot, and they're going to need to have their best team in there every week to be able to achieve that. And that's the big question mark that I've probably got over this Irish team at the moment, if they can do that for 4 weeks in a row. I think if Ireland were to make it to the quarterfinals and they get through that game, psychologically that's going to be the biggest hurdle for them, because they haven't done it before. And I think if they got past the quarterfinals, then they'd have a very good chance of going all the way. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. They've got to beat Scotland first of all this weekend. I really like the Scottish rugby team. I think they're playing wonderful rugby. We probably haven't seen the super best of them in this year's Rugby World Cup, particularly in that game against South Africa. So this is a benchmark game for Scotland against Ireland on Saturday. They're going to have to come out all guns are blazing, because there may not be a next week for Scotland if they don't do that. And you can forget about history and all the times that Ireland have beaten Scotland. This is different. This is a Rugby World Cup. It's 2023. They've got the players that they've both got in each team today, and that's what they're going to have to go in with in this Saturday night. And often we see that first 20 minutes being absolutely vital in these games, and I think that's going to be key in this game as well. But I do think if Scotland do happen to have a lead at half time, Ireland are definitely a team that can come back into it and run over the top of you in the second half. Whereas I think if Scotland are chasing the game, they're probably going to find it a little bit harder to do that than what Ireland could do. We know that Scotland came back against France in that warm-up game in Paris. That was a good game by Scotland, and they showed they had the tenacity and grit to come back against France in that game. So I'm not saying they can't do it, I'm just saying that I think Ireland have a better chance of coming from behind if they find themselves in that state in this game. When it comes to goal kicking, we've got Sexton and Russell. Well, you can't really separate the two. They're both playing very, very well. So I don't expect it to come down to a goal kicking duel. I think we're going to see tries deciding this, and I think Ireland's just got too much class across the pitch. So they can score tries through their forwards, and they can obviously score tries in their backline, either inside backs with Aki and Ringrose, or out wide with their wings, Mac Hansen and James Lowe and Hugo Keenan coming into that backline. So there you go. My gut feel's telling me Ireland's going to win this one. It's going to be close, but I can also see Ireland getting away with it in the second half as Scotland start to capitulate a little bit from all the effort they're going to have to put in that first 40 minutes. So if Ireland's a little bit of ahead at this beginning of the second half, there might be a 2 or 3 try differential by the end of this game, and it's for all the reasons that I've just said. So let me know in this video by putting your comments in on who you think is going to win the game first of all. How are they going to go about it? And what selection changes would you have made if you were either Andy Farrell or Gregor Townsend in this game? I'm sure Andy Farrell doesn't want to lose the game and still go through to the next stage of the Rugby World Cup. I'm sure he wants to win this game and make another statement on behalf of the Irish team in this year's Rugby World Cup. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I'd love to hear your views. It's going to be a massive game in Pool B on Saturday night, and another wonderful game in this year's Rugby World Cup. Okay, that's it for my preview video for this particular game. Why don't you hang around with me here on Inside Rugby by hitting the subscribe button, giving this video a thumbs up, and telling me where you're watching my channel from around the world. I'd love to know where people are tuning in from when it comes to watching rugby videos. Okay, I'll be back again soon with another video about this weekend's game. Until then, stay well, stay safe everyone, and keep enjoying the rugby from France. Bye for now.